Humanity Matters.
This is Alan Mindel with Influential Origins, and today I have a phenomenal person as my guest, Michael Trager. But this is a very special episode for us. Not a particularly happy topic, but a story that has to be told. Michael, I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's not easy.
It's not.
Michael, you and I grew up, in certain similar ways. We went to the same temple growing up. We're both Temple Torah kids in Little Neck, Queens. Tell me about life growing up in that area, Queens.
It was a heavily Jewish area. No one went to school during Jewish holidays, and we're not just talking about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. To go to school on Simchas Torah would be like a shanda, to the neighborhood. So the schools were totally empty. And really, it was sort of like a Mayberry type of youth. It was wonderful. The only regret I have is I misbehaved in Hebrew school.
I don't think you were the only one.
I was not,
Yeah.
but those were wonderful times. And truthfully, when I became an adult and I got married and decided to pick on a neighborhood where I wanted to live, I wanted something similar to be living in Little Neck, but not Little Neck because that's where my parents lived. So I chose to live in Hollis Hills, which is an area very similar to what I had in Little Neck.
Because at this point for, over 100 years, there was a golden age for people in New York, for Jews to live in New York. We were allowed to be who we were without much worry or concern for ourselves or for our safety. I mean, looking back on it now, how do you see that period of history through it?
It was wonderful. I never experienced anti-Semitism. I knew it existed, but it never personally had any impact on me. Maybe there was a random statement that was made over the years, but it was so random. Who thought about it? And it was something that it was never an issue. It never stopped me. It never held me back. And I really thought there was no anti-Semitism. And what's happened now, obviously, I never saw it coming. And I'm shocked by it.
And that period of time, you really came of age in the 70s. Mm-hmm. It was a fun time to be Jewish in Queens.
It was.
And intellectually, there were good schools in the area, good colleges and universities, and you took advantage of that yourself. You were an NYU kid.
And they used to call it NY Jew at the time.
Right.
And I think it was totally Jewish. It was not. But there was so many Jewish students there. I was an accounting major, and later I got my MBA in taxation. And there were a lot of Jews there. And it was really wonderful. It was sort of like a continuation of what I had growing up in Little Neck and being with Temple Torah.
And we were accepted by people of all religions and faiths. We could respect. It was like this pluralistic, liberal little life that we would have here.
I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA, and I remember my father telling me a story when he first applied to work at Arthur Anderson. It didn't work out well for Arthur Anderson, but he worked, and he goes to the interview, and the person interviewing him says, "Oh, what are you?" And my father said, "I'm a Jew." He said, "Oh, we don't hire Jews," and that was the end of it. This was something like 1950.
Right.
And when he told the story, it was like hearing it from a foreign source because it was so different than what my experience was, where I was never denied anything. And so I thought we had come so far in so short a period of time, and apparently we have not, or we certainly regressed.
So at that time, you're a young guy, a CPA to be, mm-hmm. and you're living in Queens, and you go to a party, you're not yourself, but you see someone that catches your eye. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the first time you saw Cara Sellinger at the time.
So a mutual friend of Cara and myself had a party in 1975, and I'll just say I wasn't on my A game,
Right.
and it was a shameful evening on my part. But having said it, there are second chances in life, and I remember thinking, gee, if my friend had another party, I would act differently, much more maturely, and take advantage of the opportunity that I was given. And lo and behold, he had a party about a year later, and I saw her. I went up to her, and it was love at first sight. I wanted to marry her that night. I didn't play games with her. She didn't play games with me, and really, it was a beautiful relationship, beautiful courtship, a beautiful marriage. It was wonderful.
Now, Cara Sellinger, she was pretty much a force. She grew up in what was, now inconceivable at the time, a really good community in the Bronx. She grew up with her sister.
Well,
and her
she would
family.
beg to differ. She had no like for her experiences in the Bronx. She disliked it a lot. She was thrilled to get out of the Bronx. She had terrible experiences there. And she always wanted to be with Jewish people, which she was denied in the Bronx, the neighborhood she lived in. And she was thrilled to leave the Bronx and to move elsewhere. But she was always interested in Judaism and very Zionist. And living in Queens, where we lived, afforded her the opportunity to, A, get out of the Bronx, and B, be who she was, an ardent Zionist and a proud Jew.
And she went to Queens College.
Mm-hmm.
She worked for the school paper at a certain
Phoenix,
point.
yes.
Phoenix, which means rising from the dead.
Which is very apropos for her.
Yeah. And so she had a pretty good career there and really wanted to be a writer. And she ended up, coincidentally, her yearbook page for graduation, there was another relatively notable person on that same page with her.
Yes, she was on the same page, coincidentally, with Jerry Seinfeld, who I think we all know.
Right.
And her joke was she'd be ironing downstairs, and she'd say, I'm ironing, and he's a major TV star. Yeah. So it's amazing how things evolve. And interestingly, a writer came up to her because one of Jerry Seinfeld's girlfriend's last name was Trager, and he wanted dirt on Jerry Seinfeld. And she comes to me and says, what should I do here? Should I go through the past archives to try to find dirt on him? And I thought to myself, why would you do that?
Right.
He's a good guy, and don't do that. And she thought, yeah, it's crazy. I'm not doing it. But he did write a book. This gentleman wrote a book, and she was happy not to be part of that book.
Good. So, two of you got married back at Temple Torah, 1978.
I had one choice. You getting married in Temple Torah or you getting married at Temple Torah? So I decided to get married at Temple Torah.
I got bar mitzvah at Temple Torah, so I think we probably had the same hors d'oeuvres.
Exactly, probably.
Yeah. And then you settled into Hollis Hills.
Correct.
And you guys had 2 kids.
We have 2 kids, yes.
So tell me about your kids, Eric and Rachel.
So Cara gave birth in 1983 to Eric, who went to Solomon Schechter, went to day school, and he was very impacted by what happened on September 11th. He was at Harvard at the time, in Cambridge, and that's where one of the flights began, and he was freaked at it. And he thought, okay, I don't understand why this occurred. So he devoted his education to learning Arabic and to just spend time in the Middle East. And from there, he created a career for himself. He wound up, ultimately, he was working for a think tank in D.C., and he ultimately worked for a short time for Donald Trump as a national security consultant, and then later on, and prior, he's worked in the Senate. Now for the Armed Services Committee, he worked for Department of State, and he's traveled the world. He's seen things like that, that Saudi Arabia and whatever. And just as an aside, he since my wife's death, he led the minyan in my synagogue, wearing a Saudi soccer shirt, with his name and number on it. And I commented to him that's probably the first time in davening history that somebody who's davening, leading a service, is wearing a Saudi uniform. So that's the Eric story. And he's married now and has two children and a beautiful wife. Rachel also went to Salmachek, and she then continued her education at Ramaz. And she was, of the two, she was definitely somebody who was going to quit school every minute to go to Israel and make Aliyah. And we keep on saying to her, Rachel, don't throw your Columbia education in the garbage can, and finish your studies, bring something to the table to Israel. And she relented, and she did. And ultimately, she moved to Israel last year with a husband and two children. And she has a public relations business that's a successful one. And I'm very proud of her. And even though I miss her and her children and her husband, etc., you got to let your children fly, and you deal with it accordingly.
And they had a real role model in Cara, because Cara was a pretty independent spirit. She was someone who made sure that she framed her career around her children, but still had the ability to be successful at it.
Well, that's true. Well, first of all, they're both writers, so that they didn't get from me. I have to, sometimes I feel like taking a paternity test because they look like her, they act like her, and I was always working, always constantly working, never home, and I regret it now, obviously. And while I was away, I was told that during dinner, the conversation was regarding the Holocaust and Judaism and Zionism, etc. And when I come home, I would talk about the Mets and whatever else, how's school, but she spent the time that I wasn't there focusing on the issues that were very important to her.
But while your wife was home, she didn't stop her career.
She did not. She was a successful writer. She wrote for many, many newspapers over the years. She had a successful journalistic career. She was very proud of it. She loved to write, and she wrote for many, many publications, Jewish, non-Jewish, and at the end, she worked for Newsday primarily.
She worked with Newsday. She had worked at the Post.
She did.
She did a tremendous amount of work for Cranes New York on the business scene in it.
She did.
She had industry peripherals as well.
Yes.
But also dedicated time to UJA to help write for them. Jewish Theological Seminary.
She wrote also for United Synagogue.
United Synagogue. She had, she was a working writer at all points all the way through.
She was. And she was able, at the time, when my son was born in 1983, it was unusual to be a work-at-home mom and actually do the work and also raise children. So it was an amazing feat. People were saying, relatives were saying, "Oh, you'll never do it. We're laughing at you." Well, she had the last laugh because she was able to be a mother, a stay-at-home mother, and also create a very successful writing career.
So, and she, by the way, shared with you, you went to Mets camp. I saw that you guys went down together.
She paid for it. She not only paid for the Mets camp. When Gil Hodges was elected to the Hall of Fame, I told her I have to go to that as a crazy baseball fan, a Brooklyn Dodger and Mets fan, etc. And she made it a point. We went on a fantastic tour, behind the scenes. And she just even though she was not a baseball fan, she would call runs points. She had no knowledge of anything about baseball, but she wanted to make me happy, and she just understood. And for that, when we did we made a trade. I got the Hall of Fame, and she got to go to France the next year.
I think that sounds pretty fair.
Well, we try to be fair.
Works out through.
Yeah.
But she was aware of the changing climate that has been going on here.
She was 100% aware of it and very, very concerned about it.
Yeah. And obviously you've been involved in that. because the society that you grew up in and the society that I grew up in, a pluralistic society where everyone would be comfortable living together. And it's funny you brought up how much 9/11, was formative for Eric. But when we look at that lens, because as we tape this here, are but a couple weeks away for the 25th anniversary of 9/11. We think about those 25 years, where we are today as a country, as a society, and how much we are not at peace with ourselves is pretty unique.
Agreed.
And she, as a writer, was pretty aware of how that was flying through.
Well, I will tell you, after 9/11, and certainly with the election of the current mayor of New York, I suggest that maybe it's time to leave New York City. It was a bridge too far for me. And we had put the house up for sale, and we had an interview with the salesperson. And after he left, he said, I can't do it. I loved my community, and I just can't do it. And we told the broker that it was staying put. So she was aware of it, but she did not like change. She loved her life, and she wanted to continue as it was, and ultimately she paid a price for it.
Very obvious to the eye if you drive by. It's an obvious area that's a Jewish area. You don't have to be an investigator to know.
Right. House is absolutely a Jewish area. It has many. What we are at the Halsel Jewish Center. It's called Eitz Chaim now, but there are many other alternatives for people to go to. And what's happening today is to become a Bukharian neighborhood. So Bukharian Jews are going to places beyond the Halsel's Jewish Center. But there's a lot of knockdowns, as far as houses go, right. And it's just a desirable area for Jews to move to.
And when I mean it's obvious, I mean something that's going to become relevant to our story. The local bagel place for you, Bagels and Co., is a couple blocks away from where you're at.
Right.
And it's a place that has Israeli flags lining all the way through.
And American flags.
And of course American flags, because this is an area, and this community is an incredibly patriotic area. Proudly so. And so in this community, just before what befell your wife, there were a couple of incidents where there was vandalism to Jewish restaurants in the area. Specifically, 10 days before what happened to you and your wife.
And 3 days before.
And then subsequently 3 days before. And I assume there's video of this as well.
There is.
Where somebody came in, knocked down all the planters, defaced the place, destroyed it as much as they could. Specifically because of the place that was proud to be a pro-American, pro-Jewish establishment.
Absolutely.
So that happens 10 days beforehand. And then 3 days before what we're about to talk about, again, this happens. And someone who's in Middle Eastern garb, right?
Muslim garb.
And there is no audio, but I think they can say that there's some kind of screaming or something going on.
Right.
While this place is again defaced and vandalized, specifically the Jewish aspects of it throughout.
Right. There are certainly other stores in the neighborhood
that happened.
And he just happened to pick this bagel store.
Yeah.
I don't think it was arbitrary.
Right. Okay. And then now tell me about the day that has so unfortunately changed your life.
So it was Memorial Day, and normally I attend with her the Memorial Day parade in Little Neck, go back to the old neighborhood, so to speak, on Northern Boulevard.
Which has been around, I mean, as long as I've been alive, it's been there.
Right.
And it's an act of patriotism beyond all else.
It's bipartisan. It's not Republican, Democrat. It's well attended by all.
It's really about giving the love that we all should give to our soldiers. That freedom is not free.
Absolutely, 100%. So I was ready to go, and I said to Cara, let's go. But she couldn't go. Why couldn't she go? Because a week later, there was supposed to be a dinner for our retiring cantor, Sal Zim. And she was active on the committee, and she was changing. She didn't like a comma or a period, and she was into it to make sure that the grammar for what was written about Sal, our cantor, our beloved cantor, was 100% accurate. So I said, all right, I'm going to go without you. So I go to the parade, I come back. I'm informed by her, I need to get my steps. And she was very physically fit, and she needed to have 10,000 steps. And I said, okay, sure. We're going to go to a local restaurant called Muscat, on Union Turnpike, which certainly she'd be able to get 10,000 steps in. We go to the restaurant, and we were going to go home. We had just seen the movie, talking about Memorial Day, The Best Years of Our Lives, a very classic movie about soldiers that return home from World War II. And there was another movie that I had seen that I wanted her to watch. We were going to have like an intellectual date night and to discuss, compare, and contrast the movie. That's where we were headed, to go home to watch this movie. So walking on Union Turnpike, going from west to east to my home.
Right.
And we hit an intersection on Francis Lewis Boulevard and Union Turnpike, maybe a mile from my house at that point, and we're ready to go. And I remember saying to her, hey, the light's green, let's go. And the next thing I know, a car who was going north to south on Francis Lewis Boulevard collides with two cars, and I'll explain exactly what happened. Collides with two cars, and the second car ultimately hits my wife, Cara, and hits me as well. And for whatever reason, I'm alive, and she's not. So what we did not know, and what I did not know, is totally oblivious that he was doing donuts, on Francis Lewis Boulevard, which means he's circling his car,
right,
in circles at obviously a high speed
through the traffic.
Then he accelerates his car and goes 75 miles an hour in a I believe a 35 mile an hour speed limit.
Right.
40, and there's a light that he goes right through. Yep. He hits two cars.
He'd gone through a few lights.
A few lights. At that,
so he, at that point, is doing donuts, going double the speed limit,
mm-hmm,
flying through traffic lights,
right,
in this very Jewish little area of Queens,
mm-hmm,
by Francis Lewis and Union Turnpike.
Right.
And he gets to the intersection, and he strikes multiple vehicles.
Correct.
You're walking in the crosswalk with your wife.
Green light. There are cameras. That we have it all.
It's all on
documented,
video.
all there.
And one of the cars that he hits, as he's been just going out of control now for several minutes down the road, mm-hmm, strikes you and your wife.
Correct.
Knocks you out.
He did. I'll tell you, when you get hit by a car, the first thing I did when I was on the ground, when you knew what happened, but you don't know what happened. So I was touching myself. I said, oh, yeah, I guess I'm still alive,
Right.
But it takes a while to compose yourself, to get up. And I said, where's Cara? Where's Cara? Where's Cara? Finally, somebody helps me to my feet. They get my glasses that were flung off my head. And I go over there and I say, oh, my God, she's dead, So I'll tell you, beyond losing your wife that you had great admiration for and great love for, a beautiful, beautiful woman, to be with her at that time is just horrible.
In a second.
In a second, right. Your life changed in a second. I just want to say one thing as well. So I recognize the fact that a car is a weapon. Forget about what he did. But a car, you're driving a car, you could kill anybody. In his case, he overdid it, obviously, but you can kill anybody. But I would think that if most people hit somebody in a car, they would get out of the car, they would see what happened, and they would wait for the police to arrive and take it from there.
That's not what happened here.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, we're going to get there.
Okay, fine.
But you saw her, and you saw it was critical immediately. Medical attention was called by others almost immediately.
Right.
Meanwhile, the person that hit you, they've careened into other vehicles, and now I think they went right into a tree at a certain point. The car crashed.
It crashed, correct.
Okay. And like you said, not only did he not go check out the scene or see if anyone's hurt or stay at the scene, he takes off.
Well, what happened was his car, he couldn't drive his car, so he gets out of the car and he's running away from Union Turnpike south to Hillside Avenue. While he's running away, he grabs a tree branch and uses it as a weapon to fend off people that were trying to contain him.
Because he did not want to be held at that scene.
Yes, and he could have potentially killed anybody if he would have struck them. Happily, at least happily from this end, that the Good Samaritans were able to tackle him, contain him, without any further damage done.
Because people there knew it was more than an accident.
Correct.
They saw that here's someone, and it's not a car accident where someone happened to have hit or was driving at an excessive speed. This is not a story about don't speed, kids. This is someone who was obviously, for a period of time, completely out of control. They had struck other cars before they hit the cars that hit you blocks away, correct?
Yes, but we're also alleging that the acts that occurred at Bagels and Company.
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. There were multiple cars that they had hit prior to hitting the ones that had killed your wife and injured you.
Yes.
He was doing this till the car basically wouldn't go anymore. He didn't stop. The car stopped.
Yes.
He was at full rage throughout the entirety of the incident.
Absolutely right.
Okay. And as we would come to know later, this individual, Mr. Fasal, he is the same individual that destroyed and vandalized the bagel store the 10 days and 3 days beforehand.
Correct. He didn't destroy it, but he tried to damage it. The restaurant's operating, so he didn't put the restaurant out of business.
But he made sure, because it had an Israeli flag on it and an American flag on it, somehow, more than any other store on the Strip, these were the ones that he chose to vandalize.
Correct.
Twice.
That's correct.
So in a span of 13 days, he went after a Jewish business twice that was proud of its American heritage. And then on the 13th day, struck multiple vehicles, was doing donuts, went through multiple lights, was going double the speed limit, and almost like a pool table, hit a car directly into you and your wife.
Correct.
And then, only but for his car not being able to move any further, ran but grabbed something so that it could hit other people on his way through, till he was eventually subdued by bystanders at the scene.
I'd like to make one more statement about that. So the question in my mind did the rage begin on May 10th, or did it begin earlier than that? And what I would like to find out is if there were other incidents that he may or may not have been involved with, and to try to figure out, what his involvement is with it. And personally, it's been very frustrating to get to that point, because there are laws about due process with a cell phone, etc., which I just don't understand. It's beyond my ability to grasp this.
We believe in due process for everyone, okay, and everyone deserves their day in court for sure, and everyone should put up their defense. But there's a question here not of revenge or vengeance, but justice, and of safety and security for a community in Northeast Queens.
Right.
Because there have been several incidents of vandalism.
It was a killing in Casino Park. It was swastikas, on in the Regal Park Jewish Center prior to this. I don't know.
There have been incidents throughout the area.
Yes, of course, but those are the two that I'm, bringing up. I know there have been many others. There's two synagogues in Jamaica Estates were vandalized, and I don't know. I would just think logically, if you see what this what this person did, then you might want to find out when this began. Get his phone, get his Facebook page, get his Instagram page, and do your job.
Which sounds obvious, and I think the reason we're talking about this is not just randomly. It's not a random thought in your mind.
No.
Because whenever someone suffers a loss like you've suffered, I mean, you were married for 47 years.
Yes.
47 years. And you're living in a community forever where you raised two successful children, where you've been a member of the community that's been active in charitable causes forever.
And they postponed the dinner. The dinner was supposed to be the following week, and they actually postponed the dinner to August.
Well, listen, I mean,
because of her death, which was a very kind thing for them to have done.
I was at the funeral. There were several hundred people there, several hundred people there. But the point remains is, and we don't know any other incidents that Mr. Faisal was involved in or not.
We don't.
What we do know is this. We live in a city where the temperature has been raised so insanely, whether, you have this position on Israel or that position or this position or that. Each citizen in this city, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, wherever you're from, whether you're born here, whether you're from a Bukharian background, South America, North America, Africa, Asia, whatever your color, creed, religion, sexual orientation is, you're supposed to be safe in Queens. Queens was this incredible melting pot. I mean, Queens College is about as diverse a place, at least it used to be, that people would be comfortable in living. But it's gotten to the point where it's become tribal. And the rhetoric in this city against Jews has been so strong, whether it's boycotts, where it's stickers, where it's people. I've had someone sitting in that seat that walking through Brooklyn has red triangles, sees people with red triangles on their chest, and, was there when, at the Brooklyn Museum, they spray painted on the curator's house a triangle, which is the mark for death. These incidents, these things just keep happening over and over again. And people say, well, okay, so people are just voicing, it's about freedom of speech. But it's created an atmosphere where these other things are occurring, whether it's vandalism, driving recklessly and insanely in an area where you know who's walking down the street. It's not random.
It's not random. And look, from my standpoint, I have been very disappointed with the politicos in the area. I've been very disappointed with ADL. Certainly, it was an action that should have received a response from them. But I have taken that, and I have physically gone to them and met with them and explained my displeasure, and they have righted the wrong, or at least they're trying to right the wrong. To try to get to the core of this.
I know the question because you and I have discussed this, and it is not your fault. in any way, shape, or form. But whenever something like this happens, it comes to what ifs. And the what if that you have asked is, what if 3 days before your wife was killed and you were struck, if someone had stopped the person that was vandalizing Jewish stores near your house?
They told me, I was told by the DA, and I have no issue with the DA.
Because Melinda Katz came right away.
She was excellent, and there's a Vivian Gonzalez, who's the assistant DA. They're excellent people.
Right away came to you and said, this case means something
and
to me.
They made the point beautifully. I couldn't have said it any better than the way they summarized it. But they told me that the reason why they could not make the connection was because they found out about the Bagels and Company via the car that David Feisal was driving with the license plate, and then by virtue of that, they were able to tie in that license plate with a license plate close to Bagels and Company. That's how they made the connection, and in their mind, they weren't able to do it prior to that. That's what that's saying.
Right. But it's important to note that, we're describing the situation as it occurred. And there were separate charges. Melinda Katz and her team filed hate crime charges for the attacks on Bagel & Co.
Yep.
However, recently that case went to the grand jury.
Right.
And you sat in on that grand jury.
I did not sit in the. I sat
in the room, in the courtroom.
Well, I was there after it was decided that he did not commit a hate crime in their judgment.
The grand jury in Queens would not consider the vandalism twice of a Jewish bagel store with American and Israeli flags, the flags of which were all removed if they could be, tossed over, thrown, that in and of itself did not make it a hate crime.
It's shocking, but that's exactly right.
And so the question is, if a grand jury cannot be made to understand how one action can lead to another,
Exactly right.
and how the specifics of what was done there, somehow, when you destroy the property of a Jewish business multiple times in a particular garb, screaming and otherwise, how that itself is not considered an act of hate in New York. And then 3 days later, that same person, like we said, not just driving fast right then and there, struck multiple cars beforehand, and for a period of time, blowing lights, doing donuts, hitting other cars, pushing them into the direction of pedestrians on a crosswalk in what happens to be an unbelievably strong Jewish community. And we say, no, it's just an accident. Nothing will bring Cara back. But the thing that you don't want to see, and I don't want to see, I mean, we understand the depth of what it means to lose a citizen who is a contributor, a writer, an active person in their community, but also a mother, a grandmother, a 47-year husband. We don't want to see someone else with that same result.
Look, correct. I mean, no question about it. And just going backwards, do I think that David Feisal wanted to kill Cara Trager personally or Michael Trager personally? That would be impossible.
Right.
But I do think that his actions in that area was he was aiming to hurt or kill a Jew. And if he would have killed two Jews, even better. And the fact of the matter is the the Good Samaritans, Hatzalah. It were all Jewish people that were on the scene, so it's very likely he was going to.
Hatzalah, who was there who
Fantastic.
gave the first care to your wife, because that's the neighborhood that they're working out of there. That's their area.
Yes, they were wonderful.
He happened to go crazy with a car in an area where Hatzalah is based.
Correct. Correct.
Not just some random block.
Not some random block. He was targeting, in my judgment, he was absolutely targeting that.
It happened to happen in an area where Jews live.
And it's just inconceivable that the grand jury could not make that connection. And it worries me, not only about that, but ultimately what the ultimate outcome of the vehicle manslaughter is going to be, because I'm worried.
Because, Mr. Faisal should get and should serve the justice that he owes his community, your community, and you, and your wife, and your children, and your grandchildren. But there also has to be a deterrent that the life that Jews are living right now in Northeast Queens, that has been deteriorating for the last 5 or 6 years in a really obvious fashion.
Right. So I have tried. So through my contacts with now the politicians that are the local officials, I am attempting to set up a meeting with both Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch and Mayor Mondani. And it's not going to be a yelling match. It's going to be have an honest conversation. I'm doing my best. I've already made the liaison. I've been contacted by the liaison, Mayor Mondani's Israel affairs person. So we're in contact, and we're going to meet next week, etc. And what I hope to get out of this meeting, certainly with the mayor, if I'm able to do so, is these things are happening too frequent, and what is being done. What is the policy of New York City to make sure this doesn't happen again? It's not going to get into a conversation about whether he thinks that Israel has a right to exist, or that I don't even want to get into that conversation.
Right.
I just want to know what the policy is.
Because it used to be not debatable whether or not any country has a right to exist. No one questions the right of Pakistan or any other country in this world that was created at the same time Israel was created to exist.
Right.
This isn't even a conversation about Israel. The question is, if Jews have a right to exist in the city of New York.
Correct.
If Jews have a right to equal justice in the city of New York. If Jews have a right to have their politicians not say or create an environment where they become the target of people that are in a state of mind that cannot control themselves and commit violent acts that end up with someone like your wife killed on the streets of Union Turnpike in Francis Lewis Boulevard.
And quite frankly, it's amazing that Cara found her death in this way. Because, as I explained earlier, she was always speaking about Jewish causes, the Holocaust, etc. And the interesting thing about this is, throughout 47 years of marriage, I never had to tell her that I love her. She didn't need to hear that. But what she needed to hear when she got all wound up about Jewish causes, I would have to say to her, Cara, I'm pro-Israel. I'm a Zionist. And all of a sudden, she would calm down, she'd smile, and we'd continue our life together.
Because
that's
she
all
wasn't
she wanted
fighting
to hear.
you.
What?
She wasn't going to fight. She wasn't fighting you.
She wasn't fighting me, but she was so into being Jewish and pro-Israel that she needed to hear it.
And she had the right to be it.
Absolutely.
And she had the right to live in this city and be it.
Safely.
The same way as someone who believes something different has the right. She had
Absolutely.
that right too.
Absolutely. We like everybody. We don't dislike anybody.
Right.
We don't.
Everyone is welcome.
Absolutely.
But everyone is welcome to live in a society that it's safe to cross the street.
Absolutely.
Even if it's a Jewish area where Hatzalah is on the corner.
I don't care if it's a Jewish area, a Muslim area. We have to respect each other. We have to look at our differences and learn to live with each other. That's all I'm asking. Let's live together in peace.
But in order to have peace, there has to be a rule of law to it.
It has to be a rule of law, and it has to be mutual respect.
And we have to have politicians that enforce that and create
And they
that
have to
environment.
look at causes instead of just looking at the next election. That's my concern, that they're so worried about the next election, they lose the reason why they're there. Want them to stand for things like human rights and mutual respect, and which I'm trying to bring home to them.
And before we worry about human rights halfway across the world, it would do our city well to worry about human rights within its own city borders.
Right, and the fact that what happened to Cara could happen to you or anybody else in the community says this is not a Cara Trager issue. It's a human. It's a mankind issue. It's for everybody.
An issue where no community can be targeted for who they are or what they are.
Correct.
Whether it's a Republican saying horrible rhetoric about something, a Democrat, a
Right.
DSA member.
Yeah.
All of this
Has to
intolerance
stop.
has to stop.
Has to stop.
Because it doesn't just lead to bad posts on social media, it leads to dead people.
And
in
if
the
this,
street.
at least, if my activism in this area can help stem the tide, then it will give more value to a beautiful woman, a beautiful life she had, and she will at least have died for a cause, hopefully with a favorable outcome. We cannot continue to live the way we're living, with disliking each other and disrespecting each other. We're human beings, and we have to act like human beings.
To everyone.
To everyone.
Well, on that note, I think we'll call it a day for you. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan,
here.
for your time.
You have been an incredibly valuable member of the HMTC community. For those that don't know, you're our treasurer, so you're part of the reason the lights are on. We're here in the house that Bernie built, but you make sure the bill gets paid for it.
And just I want to just say that my experience with HMTC, I'm proud to be a member of it. I respect what you guys do, and I'm proud to do my part.
Well, I'm only sorry that we haven't done enough of a part in time that the world would not be what it was on the day your wife was.
You got to keep trying, and you're gonna. And
in
no
her
doubt
name-
you're going to keep trying.
In her name, we will.
We're all going to keep trying.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
If you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories in today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcasts here on HMTV. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations.
Humanity Matters.